Hello friends, this is Leigh, and on this channel I share videos about photography as an art and as a lifestyle. Today is a very exciting day. The Leica SL3 has been announced. Codename, Picard. The SL2's codename was Vader. Those are both names that you can't just throw out there for a camera if it's not going to live up to it. Sith Lord Darth Vader, or as his friends call him, Anakin Skywalker, was a big deal a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, and Picard, at least from the future, and he's partially Borg. And neither Picard nor the Borg mess around. So now it's important to find out for Leica SL3, did Leica make it so, or did they make it so-so?
Make it so.
That's a clue for you right there. The SL3 announced today is one of Leica's flagships, and it's the latest. Honestly, if you look at their entire camera lineup, it is basically all flagship cameras. And while I think of Leica cameras as understated elegance, the real key is the performance. The SL3 has some pretty big shoes to fill as this SL2 holds up in 2024 right alongside the other giants in the industry. SL2 in hand, I was on a plane to Wetzlar to see this new baby in its natural habitat, Leitz-Park, Leica headquarters. And I was traveling there alongside some great names that you may recognize, like Ted Forbes from the Art of Photography channel, and Hugh and Claudia from Three Blind Men and an Elephant, and many others. It's a long trip, and Leica did a fantastic job of getting us all together there. But let's cut right to the chase. The SL3. Here's what you need to know. Phase detection autofocus. In my short time with the SL3, it was almost imperceptibly different from the SL2, but I have a lot more seat time with my SL2, and I'm sure when I ultimately am able to use the SL3 in a variety of sports and wildlife environments, portraiture, that the addition of phase detection will shine through. I will take the most beautiful photos of you, darling. The biggest challenge to the SL3 in this area is the SL2, as with this camera, Leica took contrast detection autofocus as far as they possibly could, up to the limits of the technology. Now here's the big swerve. It is not the phase detection autofocus that I am most excited about, because the autofocus, it just works on the SL2 and on the SL3. So I boiled down my top most liked aspects into 3 categories. New tech specs. Pixels matter, and there are 60 million of them, up from the SL2's 47. I never say no to more resolution and detail. As you would expect from Leica, it's astounding, and the dynamic range is up to 15 stops. It's a back-sided illuminated or BSI sensor. The processor is the new Maestro 4 with 8 gigs of buffer memory. This is twice the buffer size as the SL2. Video specs. When I eventually have an SL3, oh, and we will, won't we, darling? I'll get deeper into the practical aspects of video with the SL3. I did shoot some video with it in Germany, and it looks fantastic. I did not connect it to an external recorder or push the limits of the dynamic range or anything like that. For the 4K video I captured, it worked just as I've come to expect from my SL2 and my Q2, the SL2S that I've used. Of course, the SL3 has the addition of 8K video and an option to shoot in ProRes, among other things, so definitely more to explore on that in the future. What you will see across all of the specifications is that everything was sweet with the SL2, and it's even sweeter with the SL3. And I mean that. They've really left no stone unturned. Leica does not do lazy camera updates. Quite the opposite, really. They focus design and engineering attention across the board when creating a new camera. I'm not going to name any other camera brands here, but Leica does not simply add a letter or a number onto the end of the camera name and give you like 10 more megapixels and then call it a new camera. They design and create a truly new camera each time, and that's exactly what they've done with the SL3. Improved menus. First, Getting to the menus and options is slightly different than before. The stack of rear buttons on the SL3 has moved to the other side of the camera back compared to its predecessors. For me, I actually like the change. It felt easier in my hands, and the right-hand side is where these buttons tend to be on other brands that I'm already comfortable with and using, so it was natural for me. Next, the user interface, it's much improved. What you see in the viewfinder is arranged differently with more space between the items, and there's more flexibility to arrange the icons, or as Leica affectionately calls them, the Lycons. It is a touch screen, so the spacing and the readability of the Lycons is that much more important. The font has even been optimized for readability and usability as well, and as always, Leica keeps the menus lean, and that's consistent with their overall design philosophy of elegant, highly usable, and simple. Improved haptics. The on-off switch is now a push button. I did not like that initially until I was able to wake up the camera from the app, and I realized how much better that is. There is a light around the on-off button, and the light can give you information like if the camera's charging. Standby mode is like turning the camera off in terms of battery storage, but it gives you the convenience to wake up the camera from the app. Again, it's not a hard switch, which I did fear at first, but then I realized that it's just bringing a lot more flexibility. And there is an added dial on top, which can be configured for many uses. Quite often among my peers on the trip was to use it for ISO sensitivity, which is exactly where the ISO dial is on M cameras. The LCD on the top of the camera has been improved for readability in differing conditions, and that actually made a big difference for me. I really liked that. The tilt screen on the back, which is new to the SL line, brings additional flexibility. On paper, the size and weight difference is very small between the SL3 and the SL2. But when you are trucking around with it all day, it does make a real difference. Now, I love the chonk of the SL2, but the reduced chonk of the SL3 is attractive. My back is still recovering, so the reduced weight along with the rear tilting LCD screen really make a difference for how long I can really shoot with this camera, considering my limited mobility. When you start adding all of these improvements up, you might become hungrier and hungrier for this significant update.
Yes. Oh yes, dear, we will have one.
Just as the camera is designed with visual elegance and your hands crave it, Leica is equally mindful regarding the integration of electronics and capabilities so that the camera works as they feel it should on the inside. What this means is that you don't have a pile of specs that don't work well together, or run into situations where options that you select compromise other options. In short, the SL3, like its predecessors and Leica brothers and sisters like the Q3 and the M11, is fully designed from the visual appearance, the way it feels in your hands, and the way that it operates. And if you know me, that statement I just made is good for my soul and that of many other Leica lovers out there. In fact, this is exactly why I fell in love with the brand. When I had first reviewed the Leica SL many years ago, I was shocked. I wasn't quite ready to be a Leica owner yet, but I knew it was coming. They think different, and quite often, they think better. Don't get me wrong, there's a place in my heart and on my shelves back there for other brands, which I do use quite often, but the Leica cameras come out almost on a daily basis, and certainly for a lot of special occasions as well. Like the SL2, the SL3 has IP54 weather resistance. This is the SL2 picture, which held up without any problems whatsoever. IP54 means that the camera is splash and dust resistant. Don't submerge it, don't point a pressure washer at it. However, these cameras are designed for real field use in the real world, so don't lose your mind over some rain splashes or dust. Use your best judgment, but don't miss the shots that you want. I am particularly impressed that with the addition of the tilt screen on the SL3, It didn't downgrade the weather resistance from the SL2 with its fixed screen. And the SL3 CF Express and SD UHS2 cards mean that you have lots of speed. Neither type of card slots are a slouch. And let's sum up the specs. Tilt screen, new sensor, 60 megapixels, phase detection autofocus, L-mount Alliance is in play with its many L-mount lenses, full-size HDMI out for Leica videographers, same sensor as the M11, different processor. The mobile app is very fast with the SL3, moving raw files to your portable device like a phone or a tablet in seconds wirelessly, and even faster if you go USB-C to USB-C. It supports the Leica lenses that you crave and the full line of L-mount Alliance lenses. The two lenses that I used on the trip were my 24-90 Vario and the 35mm Summicron f2. You can't go wrong with Leica's 24-90 lens. It's a beauty. But I was excited to try out the 35mm because it was the first in the L-mount Summicron line that I've used. It's not the APO version of the lens that has a larger size, weight, and price, but I found it to be, I mean, no surprise here, a wonderful balance of capability and portability. The SL3, like the SL2 and the SL, are also a treat with M-mount lenses using Leica's M to L mount adapter. These are manual focus lenses, however, and Leica's adapter passes through lens and aperture data to the camera. A number of pros on this trip were using their own M-mount lenses on the SL3 and absolutely enjoying the experience and saying how everybody needs to do it. The SL lenses, though, are future-proof. They're not updating their lenses all the time because since the time that Leica committed to the L-mount with the SL, they designed lenses that would stand up to imaging resolutions that weren't even available at the time. And we're just now starting to creep up on them. Again, Leica doesn't mess around and try to sell you something new every year. They're intentional in their design, and they don't only look years ahead, they do look decades ahead. Okay, this camera is expensive. Its industry peers with similar capabilities are expensive. Flagship cameras are an investment. I don't always feel that other brands are thinking more than a year or two ahead. Sometimes I think that by the time these other brands release their latest camera, they're already thinking ahead toward selling you a new one in 1 or 2 years from now, which will include some capabilities that they have maybe held back so that you would be enticed by the next annual update. In contrast, Leica just gives you so much of everything with each release that their cameras seem to be suited for a lifetime of photography, and that speaks to value. Am I enticed by the SL3?
We certainly are.
But if somehow the SL2 were the end of the line for me, for the SL series, I'm not sure what I would be disappointed about. It's such a good camera. Nevertheless, I love the art of photography itself. I love the art of the camera and how Leica artfully makes all of the elements of photography, from the image to the internals to the exterior, work together as one. Thank you to Leica for including me in the SL3 event at Leitz-Park. Thank you for watching. And don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and let me know what you think down in the comments. I'll see you in the next one.